Hello, and happy Virtualization Day. Yes, today is October the 9th, the canonical start of the Kotlyogo canon. And it's on today that the next part of the Aelita Diaries comes out. A Bad Turn is a great episode, despite its actual name. It highlights a big issue. The issue being, of course, the Oric versus William dynamic. But not before silly things occur. A driving test at the academy. Is this legal? Well, apparently it is. And sadly, the kids, including our kids, are all going to a small DMV style class. And they all suck at it. This episode is filled with a lot of first. The first time William assists. The first time we hear a lot of characters' last names. That's right. And the first time we hear Sissy's actual name of Elizabeth. That's right. Not before this episode has ever been spoken out loud. But A Bad Turn is the first. We also learn the last names of Herb and Nicholas. And we hear Odd's last name spoken aloud too. Now, keep in mind, this is season 2, way before the prequel movie gave us the names ahead of time. So, technically, if you haven't watched the prequel movie first, this is the first time you're hearing a lot of the last names of these characters. They even stick with the Aelita Stones bit. I've never really liked the last name of Stones for her. Stones is just a weird last name in general, but especially for her, it just doesn't feel right. It doesn't ring. And this is only the second time, or technically third, that the last name is even used. But the comedy in the segment is memorable, especially for the facial expressions of everyone. And Oric just being a SpongeBob SquarePantsy lead foot also helps. But the main focus of the B plot is what happens in the first few minutes. After another successful Ryoka mission, the guys are off for the night. Yumi's off to go back to her house to meet someone. Encouraged by the team, even Aelita with her hands constantly in her hoodie pockets, even encouraging Oric to make a move, in which he does. But sadly, karma and luck are quite the bitch, because William happens happens to be there too, and Oryx saw it, much to Yumi's later dismay. But it doesn't take Xana long to cook up a plan for today's attack. And boy, does he cook one up. A regular red lobster platter. Yep, real virtualized crabs. Four of them. Oddly enough, this would mark the last time we would ever see a Ryoko monster in on Earth proper. Not the last time that we'd see a Ryoko monster animated, though. But we would have to wait a whole 2 seasons for that. But the crabs end up, because of their sheer size, destroying the scanners themselves. Four crabs have four different targets of notion. Yumi at her house, the academy. They're at the factory, being crab 3. Crab 4 is materialized shortly after the third is destroyed to take out the final scanner, leaving Aelita alone. Yep, that's right. She's solo on this one. But because Aelita is the real leader of this team, fight me. And the best character in this show, also fight me on that. Of course, the animators have a ball, showing just how smart she is. Yes, all these maneuvers are technically defensive, but it's the degree of execution that wins out in the end. For the first part of it, she's on odds overboard, even stealing moves that Odd has done, and even perfecting a few of her own. But most notably in this book is what most fans will remember. She even decides to let loose a little bit, materializing a skate ramp. That's right, Aelita channels her best Tony Hawk's Pro Skater in a really show-offy sequence. You could tell the animators were having fun here. And of course, if you're going to introduce a board into this show, it's going to happen eventually. No, no, of course. That's not the only thing she does. Tricking monsters into their own defeat, setting them up with clever plots, getting rid of the overboard that caused two hornets to collapse, and then overcoming even the tarantula and the Skimpus in a dead sprint. But even as all that thrilling stuff is going on, the warriors are truly challenged. Odd and William have to work together to destroy the factory crab. Oric has to channel its Ryokian form to save all the Ishiyama family, including Hiroki for that matter. matter, and the school was saved when Orc and William made a temporary truce. With, of course, William once again alliterating that he's not winning in the race for Yumi's heart, much like a couple of episodes ago. This episode is loaded with good moments throughout, great character work, and a unique setup and drama. Sure, it may end as you expect. Good guys win, day reset, and oddly, William and Art getting along for once. Sadly, we don't see a second driving montage, but hey, we can do without it. A Bad Turn is a solidly weird episode. It's a 5 out of 6. And probably Aelita's best show-offy display. Too bad other Lyoko monsters weren't virtualized and materialized on Earth after this. It's really a missed opportunity. But for the opportunity it created, it was used solidly and properly, setting up the perfect trap. It's just too bad. Aelita's just too fast for you. But the next episode, though, haha. Ever since we got next season 2, this has been one of the bookmark episodes that I bookmarked. It might be a couple weeks early, but it's time to get into the Halloween spirit. With maybe the funniest and most aloof episode of the entire series, other than Dog Day Afternoon. That one's silly. Really silly. It's time for episode 40. It's time for Attack of the Zombies. And yes, if you're expecting me to go on a railing about that line, you bet your bottom dollar I will. But that's for next week. Happy canonical anniversary, everyone. Find peace in your own nirvana. I'll see you next week.